Did you hear that, Jordan?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, that means everybody heard it.
Yep.
That is
Yeah, it's very clever.
That is Illuminati song by the Van Vuuren brothers. That's VANVUUREN, and they're these two freaking like they're acting like they're hipsters. They're acting like hipster beta males, and they're and it's just the absurdity of these people that serve the establishment.
Yeah, it's very clever.
Awesome, funny video song. So, hi everybody, this is Steve Travesty. Welcome to Ghost in the Machine. It is April 16th, 2018. And I have an extraordinary guest of all the guests that I've ever had. This guy is at least as good, if not better, than when I had Roger Stone. And I'm very certain that, unlike Roger, I'll actually get Jordan back. So everybody, my guest today is Jordan Maxwell. Jordan is the preeminent researcher and independent scholar in the field of occult, religious philosophy. His interests in these subjects began as far back as 1959. He served for 3.5 years as the religion editor of Truth Seeker magazine, America's oldest free thought journal since 1873. His work exploring the hidden foundations of Western religions and secret societies creates enthusiastic responses from audiences around the world. Jordan's area of interests include astrotheology, sexual symbolism in world religions, foundation of modern day religion, secret societies and toxic religion, world mysteries and ancient modern, ancient symbols and occult emblems, ancient sciences and technology, hidden Bible teachings and mysteries, the sun in the history of politics and religion, the story of that your church doesn't want you to know, and secret societies and their influences on world events. Jordan Maxwell, I got that right off your website, so please add to that. How are you, my friend?
Well, very good, Stephen. And I appreciate you inviting me on. And I would say, starting out, is that I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything. I'm just an ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge. I'm just an ordinary guy, but I've been involved in some strange people, strange events. And as far back as I can remember as a child, I was always involved in looking at the dark side of things. And the more you look at the dark side of the life we live, the more it becomes evident that what we think we know in this world is just not true. We are the most well-informed people on the earth in America. The only problem is 98% of what we know is not true. And so that's the problem we have today. Everybody thinks they understand what's going on. And since 1959, which is about 58 years ago, I started looking, just as an individual, I just started looking deeply into the concepts and ideas that we live by each day, and began to research where these ideas have come from and what the words originally meant as opposed to what we think they mean today. And then I got involved with religion in my early 20s. And that's opened up a whole can of worms for me, because from religion, you get into secret societies, cults, mystical belief systems, and then you get into all the York Rite Masonic cults like Jehovah's Witnesses and the Mormon Church and Seventh-day Adventists and Christadelphians, and Worldwide Church of God, and all the other Masonic cults. And from there, you get into British Israel, MI5, MI6 out of England. And then that opens up the door to all the secret societies, the Knights of Malta, the Knights of St. John, and all of the secret societies in Europe that are operating behind the scenes that nobody knows. and nobody sees, and therefore nobody cares about, because you don't see them and you don't know nothing about them. And so you don't realize how they're ruling your life right here in America. People meeting in secret in Europe are setting up plans and ideas how to manipulate the American people and get your property and your money and have you working for them. Mm-hmm. And then they set up institutions to guide us, to guide our lives for us, because we're too stupid. In their opinion, we're too stupid to guide ourselves. So they'll set up our life for us, and they'll give us our institutions. They'll teach us in our colleges, our universities, and they'll decide what we will do in our military. So they operate behind the scenes in our military, our educational systems, our banking, religion, my God, all of it. And so we Americans just go along to get along. That's what we do best. We just go along. Whatever we're supposed to do, we'll do. And after all, it is the government. And so if it's the government, we do what we have to do. Never realizing for a minute that the government is ruling you. You don't know who is behind the governmental system. And we talk about all of our laws and how we have laws in America, but you don't know. You have no idea in the world who writes your law books. We follow the law. Yeah, but who wrote the law book? And then when you begin to see all the stuff you never knew about your government, about your country, about your religion, your family, and then one day you wake up and find out you really don't know much of anything about the life you live, because knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And without the knowledge, you have no political or any other kind of power without knowledge.
And what I try to do is I try to be the guy who catches people in the net once they hit that point where they've gone from the bigotry of their comfort into, I need to listen to the people that have been trying to explain this to me before I made a really bad judgment call, and try to get people up, and because I've seen what the fear program does, because
it's very obvious. Yeah.
The conspiracy community, if you talk to them about these things 20 years ago, even 10 years ago or so, it was much more hopeless and dreadful. But people are getting smarter and smarter and smarter about things. They've and they seem to have not accepted the problem per se, but they're starting to really kind of sit into sitting back and thinking about it. I think there's a lot more people charged on this learning phase that all of us go through, because so many people's illusions have been shattered, in particular over the last 6 years. Roughly, the process going back to like the 2012 era for various purposes. And my mind is just looking. I'm looking at and seeing where people are going, saying there's a lot of potential here to get this right now, because we're in a good place of a lot of people are lost, but there's a lot of access to getting things straightened out that are available to people.
Well, that's why I said knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
If you don't educate yourself, then you can't fix anything.
Absolutely. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about in the most precise way. It's really getting to the proactive solutions, right? Because the most depressing thing is because they've invaded everything. Now everything is forbidden fruit to a good person. It's like crap. Like, I'm not a big sports person, but it matters to a lot of people. It's just like, I feel like an awful person if I even take 5 seconds to watch a football game. Oh God. And I so admire what those athletes do. And I so love like looking at it, thinking about the strategy and things like that, and like, because there's reasons why everybody likes these things, right? As a musician and somebody who loves heavy metal and, listen to a lot of heavy metal with occult themes to it, that had to be something I had to think about in my own life. And because I didn't want to go through the kind of shaming myself for sinful activity that I went through in my Christian upbringing. I felt there's got to be something way more to that, because when I was a Christian, it was just like, okay, I kind of like being a Christian. A lot of the I heard a lot of the good things, but it's just like, oh man, I want to listen to Metallica and it's just taboo. So I think because that's where it is for a lot of people. They're afraid that there's no positive side to the things that they enjoy in this world, and it's just really depressing for everybody. And that I think is a big part of it. What do we have to sacrifice?
Well, you're right. It's a big part of people's lives, and I understand that. I just have always been interested in what the adults talk about when I'm not around, every time. Yeah. When I was a kid, when my family, my dad would have some friends come over, and after dinner, all the guys would sit in the front room and drinking their wine, smoking cigars, and talking man talk, and the women would be out in the kitchen talking women talk. And both of them, both sides would say, "You kids going out and play, and you going out and play." And I remember telling my dad and some of his friends and my uncle, "I don't want to go out and play. I'm not interested in playing ball. Okay. I don't play ball. I want to know what you guys are talking about when I'm not in here, because I'm just as smart as you are. So whatever you're talking about, cut me in on it too." And so I realized that the adults don't want you knowing certain things. I understand, but today there's a law in America. People don't know about it. There's a law called parent patriae. I don't know if I'm saying the last word exactly correct, but it's called parent patriae, which means the government is officially, by law, your parent.
Yes.
And it owns you, like your mother and father you think own you, and they are the authority in your life. Actually, no, they are second, a class authority. The first authority in your life is your government, period. The government can put you in prison anytime it wants. It can charge you with anything. You have to pay taxes and fines and fees and get permission.
Yep.
And so
marriage doesn't exist unless it's registered with the state.
That's right. And so that's why we have in New York something called the Statue of Liberty. It is not the Statue of Freedom. There's a big difference between freedom and liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port, and you want to go up and you want to go off board and go onto land. You have to ask permission. And if the captain, and he may not give you permission, but if the captain gives you permission to leave, you had better be back on a particular time that the captain says, and you had better be there. You 10 minutes late and you are AWOL, absent without leave, and now you're in trouble. And you can get in serious trouble coming back an hour late. And so, but you have liberty to go. But you don't have liberty to stay out past the time I told you to be back. And so therefore you don't have freedom. You don't get freedom, you get liberty. So America has something called the Statue of Liberty. And liberty is based on law. Somebody else is controlling you. You ask permission. And if you get permission, then you can, if you want to borrow your dad's car to go out on a date, you don't just go on out and jump in the car and drive off. No, you ask permission.
Absolutely. This begs the question, because we all know that there's something inherently wrong with that, because at the very least, we hate how there's no benefit of the doubt that I don't need to be watched over because I'm my own independent person, responsible, and a good person, like is what we all usually are good people. So the law, do we live in an anarchist universe? Like, because the one thing that people think about, because they think about, yeah, that's right. But then we can't think about, well, what's the alternative per se? Because some would argue that the peaceful anarchy, there's some, people speak of natural law. I love to speak of natural law, which is very similar to the Ten Commandments. Maybe
common law,
with maybe the exception of the first. So like in your research and knowledge and who you've spoken with, do you have any idea as to what's the right kind of relationship, like, or substitute to what we have now, like what we should be?
Well, first of all, there's already a well-laid story, a well-laid understanding. It's just that most people don't know it. But if you go back into when America was founded, we were founded as a republic. Today, we are a corporate democracy, and therefore we have lost our republican standing before the world in America. We're no longer a republic. We are a commercial democracy, but we're not even a regular democracy. We like to talk about democracy, right, but we're not really a people's democracy in the classic sense of the word. Democracy is actually, in its beginning form, the word democracy simply means 46 guys voting to hang one. Mm-hmm. And so that's a democracy. Well, all 46 are agreed. We want him dead, so we'll just hang him.
Yeah, or two wolves and a sheep, you're voting on what's for dinner,
That's it, exactly. And so that's a democracy. Now, what we had when we were founded was a republic which was based on a constitutional basis of law, meaning that we write the laws for ourselves, what is understood among all of us, and then everyone has to abide by the law. And we don't care if you are most popular guy in town, and you run for office and you get 90% of the people voting for you. It doesn't matter that 90% of the people voted for you. You're still under the republic and constitutional laws that you have to follow. You don't decide because you got 90% of the vote that you are Jehovah God. You are the almighty divine presence in the universe, can now do any damn thing you please, any time you please, because you got everybody to vote for you. No, the way the republic was set up is it's all written down what you can and cannot do, period. And right. We don't care if you're the president who thinks you're God or your president's wife who thinks you are the Messiah. It don't matter. There are laws and regulations so that everybody is the same under the law. But under corporate democracy, that doesn't work that way. So you have to understand the difference. Now, and a classic example of the difference between a corporate democracy, which we are today, and a republic is the way that we are today. In other words, if you go back to the old Wild West days, when guys would ride into town with guns on their hip, and they get off and they tie the horse off and they go into the bar. Mm-hmm. And if they get if they have a really serious dispute with each other, two guys having a dispute with each other, if you can't come to terms and settle your dispute, you can always go out in the street if you want to and finish it right now and get it over with. Mm-hmm. And so that was a duel, and then you could do that legally and lawfully in America. And so
Yeah.
And so you could do it right in front of the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
And the laws.
I would have no qualms. I would have no qualms if everything just got settled in the octagon. You just have like a mixed martial arts with the guy that you're arguing with. Like nobody has to die. You have a couple of rules, but whoever goes 3 rounds in the octagon wins the argument.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's basically what it was like under the common law. Under the common law, you could go out and draw on somebody you have a difference with. Why? Because you were considered under a republic, a constitutional republic. Man, woman, and child were not citizens. There were no citizens of the United States. You were from a particular state. So, people ask you where you're from. Oh, I'm from Colorado. I'm from Texas. But there was no federal citizens. There was no such a thing as a citizen of the United States. There were just different states, and you were a member of one of the states. And so you were a state citizen. But after the Civil War, there was a very bad and bloody civil war in this country. Well, after that war was finally over, the United States was a lot of things, but united was not one of them. We were totally ununited. One half of the country had just tried to kill the other half. And so we were no longer a United States of America after the Civil War.
They even say in some history books that the Union may have won the Civil War, but the South won Reconstruction.
Yeah. And so that's why after the Civil War was over, we no longer have a United States of America, a constitutional republic where we're all protected by the law. And it doesn't matter if you got 95% of the votes. It doesn't matter. You cannot mistreat or imprison or kill smaller people because you don't like them. We are a nation under law. And so, because that's what a constitutional republic is, a nation under law. And that protects if you wanted to join the Ku Klux Klan or something, that protects you. Because just because you're a member of the Klan, or just because you're a member of some group or some biker group or something that I don't like, I, as the president, can't do anything about that. You have a right to be who you are, and as long as you're not breaking the law and hurting someone else, you can be whoever you want to be. And and so, therefore, we had a right to be who we wanted to be. But there was no such a thing as a United States citizen. Now, once you understand, after the Civil War, the whole country is totally different now. We're no longer United States. We are divided between the North and the South. And from there, you get now you're getting all kinds of division between blacks and whites, and between Jews and Arabs, and all kinds of divisions now. And now we know everybody under the United States is not equal. We're not equal anymore. That was the old way of doing things. And so today we have something called police, and the police represent the government. But they didn't have police in the old John Wayne cowboy movies. And in the old days, they didn't have police. Where did the police come from? What's that all about, having police? Well, you find out that after the Civil War, there was no United States of America left. And so they had to do something. The politicians had to come up with some kind of a deal where we could still be here and everybody could still work and earn a living and eat and still be here, because we're all here anyway. Anybody who's left that wasn't killed is here, and we need to eat, we need to work, we need to grow the family, etc. So what are you going to do? There is no United States. So what they decided to do in 1870s, right around 1869, 1870, the politicians got together behind the scenes that we didn't know anything about, and they decided that since there is no longer any United States of America, that we will form a company. Let's form a corporation like General Electric or General Motors or Ford Motor Company, and we'll form a big corporation, and we'll call the corporation the United States Corporation. And then they stipulated in finding this corporation that anyone working for the corporation, and the corporation was called United States Corporation. So if you're working for the United States Corporation, which was a privately owned company, because it's a corporation now, it's not a United States government. So if you're a member of the corporation, you are a citizen. And so it was stipulated in the paperwork that if you're a citizen, you are not free. You are an employee of a corporation called the United States Corporation. So now you're an employee. Well, if you look at the corporation paperwork, all corporations operate the same. So if you're a corporation, first of all, right off the bat, you have to have a president of the corporation. So today we got a president. And then you have to have, according to corporate law, you have to have a vice president. Okay, so we got a vice president. And you also have to have a secretary treasurer of your corporation. So we have a secretary treasurer. And so everybody thinks today we have we have the president, the vice president, secretary, treasurer, and we are the United States government. No, you are a corporation. And according to corporations, you have to have a president and vice president of a company, a corporation. And so
those things were things that we did. We also had those things in a nearly the same capacity.
That's right. Before.
It's so subtle.
It's so
subtle, and it's just the wrong relationship in the separation of powers and the relationship with the people to be the foundation for tyranny. This all has to do with the insurance business that this company is primarily a part of. Yes?
Of course, absolutely. It's an insurance agency. That's why there's a lot of stuff to know about this. But I want to finish my thought that a corporation now, instead of the United States constitutional guaranteed government, now we're a company, a corporation. And because it's a corporation, they cannot make laws. I mean, if you can work for Ford Motor Company, but whatever they tell you when you go to work for Ford Motor Company, they tell you to be on the job at 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and you take off a half hour for lunch, or you do this and you do that, and you learn what your job to do. Everything they have told you you have to do is not God's law. It's not the law of the country. It's their law. It's their operation, not the country. The country doesn't live that way. It's if you work for Ford, you live that way. And so therefore, it's not a law. And therefore, today, we don't have any laws because it's a corporation. But what corporations do have, they can do, is they can have their own policy. So if you buy something in Sears and you go back and take it back, and they say, I'm sorry, we can't do that. Why? Because that's the law, American law? No, it's not the American law. It's just our policy. We just don't take it back. That's just us. Other companies may, but we don't. So it's just our policy. And so today we have called policymakers. And they are lawmakers. No, they're not lawmakers because you can't make laws. They are policymakers. All right, so now we have policymakers, and they make a new policy. We're going to do in America, we're going to do this, this, and that. That's going to be our new policy. And you say, well, suppose I decide I don't want to do that new policy. And who are you to tell me we got a new policy? Well, that's why they have the arm, strong arm, to back up their policy. And it's called police. Police back up the policy of the politicians. Mm-hmm. So the politicians are the policy makers, and it's backed up by police. And so you begin to see how we are no longer a free country. America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. Because like Dick Gregory used to say, you ain't free or brave. You need to sit down, shut up, and go get a job. You're not free or brave anymore. It's over. Mm. And so today, in my opinion, and I've been looking at this for 58 years, but in my opinion, America is now fitting precisely into what the Bible and the book of Revelation says. There would come a time when the world would see something referred to as the man of lawlessness. This is in the book of Revelation in the Bible. That there would come a time when there will be something the Bible referred to as the man of lawlessness, meaning there will be a time when the people who run the planet would be lawless. They have no laws. They do whatever they want to do, like the mob, the mafia. They don't follow the law. They are the law. Whatever they decide to do is what they do. And so what I'm saying is that America today, I see as the man of lawlessness. Okay. The reason why is because there is no law in America. Period. There is no, because law implies it's chiseled in stone. It's in concrete. It's like God's law is in the 10 Commandments is on stone. Well, the idea is I'm saying that we do not have in America a system of law which is chiseled in stone. Nothing is absolutely absolute. Nothing. You got a good lawyer, you can get away with anything. You got good crooked cops or crooked judges, you can get away with anything. You got enough money, you can buy anything. So there is no law. There's only what the judge or the cop on the beat says the law is. And so that's a whole different story, but nonetheless, you need to realize there is no set law in America. Right. When the cop pulls you over, when you're out there and the cop pulls you over, and he gets off the bike and comes over to your car, you cannot tell him, well, the law says it. The law, he don't give a damn about the law. He is the law, Jackson.
Yeah.
And whatever he says, that is what the law is. And even if he's full of crap and doesn't know what the law is, and is arrogant and self-centered and arrogant, but he is the law. He's carrying a gun, and he's got a badge, and he's wearing a uniform. So he is the law. Mm-hmm. Period.
Yeah, precisely. It's just, dealing with the cops. Whew, that's
well, I'm just saying, but that's the mentality in the corporation.
Yeah.
Because when you join the big company, go to work for a big corporation, the guy who is your boss, he may be loony, he may be crazy, he may be a drunk or on drugs or whatever, but if he's the boss, and you ain't. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. Mm-hmm. And so that's why today America is the way it is, because today there is no law. It's just who you are and who you know. And once you get a badge and a uniform and you're carrying a gun, from then on, son, you are the boss on the street. And you can do anything you want to anybody because you are the law. And if they don't like what you're doing, it doesn't matter. You got a badge and a gun, and you represent Herr Hitler in Berlin. You represent the powers that be. Well, yeah, but the law says this or that. Well, I don't care what the law says. I'm telling you to get in the car. I'm telling you you're under arrest. And so I don't care what the law says. And so today, this is America today, we are a lawless corporation. We are not the United States of America. And that's why when people say today, well, there's light at the end of the tunnel, I say, yeah, that's a train coming. So you need to wake up and find out that, well, people are waking up. And I say, yeah, people are waking up. That's what guys do when they're in a federal prison. Every morning they wake up, but they're not going anywhere. You're locked up and you're not going anywhere. And so until you learn that knowledge is power and learn how this government really works,
right,
and how the law actually works, And it got nothing to do with justice. It has to do with who you are.
So I think because of how that went, so the big question that runs through my mind is I want to be able to restore with the, save obviously for women's suffrage and slavery, restore what we had before the Civil War, when we had said republic. Everyone knows me. I'm a libertarian, classical liberal. Would like to be anarchist, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know, but I don't think we're ever going to go back, because once fascism, and that's what this is I'm talking about, once fascism begins to raise its head in our government, once the government begins to come under the domination of fascist thinking, unless something is done immediately, when you see fascism coming, and you do something about it immediately, you put that down. No more lawlessness, period, no matter who you are. And we go by the law, we go by the Constitution, and everyone's protected under the Constitution. Just because you don't like somebody, you think they did something, that gives you no right to take them out and hang them, even though there's 65 of you and one of him. No, that's not the way democracy works. That's not the way the law works. Right. But today it does work that way. If you can get 90% of the votes and you get into power, after that you don't have to worry about laws. You don't have to worry about integrity or anything else. You're the boss of all bosses. Why? Because I'm in and you're out. Period. End of sentence. So I don't need to abide by your silly-ass laws. I'm the president. I do any damn thing I please to do, anytime I please to do it. If you don't like it, you're going to prison. And so this is what we have today. We are the fall of the Roman Empire. And, of course, America is the modern-day Roman Empire. And that's a whole story in itself, right. What America really is today. We are a Roman Empire.
Right. I feel so strongly that, like, everybody is really interested in a means of rejecting that, and it's because, like, I'm the kind of guy that hates being told it's too late, because here I still am breathing. You know what I mean? So, and not in a physical prison, but as free as the most free are allowed to be.
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
So it's just like I'm out and about, for some reason I haven't been Gestapo'd yet. So, and I've said plenty of things and done plenty of things, high profile things, like going to my government and talking about changing certain criminal laws that may involve plants that get burned.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but see, if you're doing it that way, Caesar, the way the Caesars of Rome, they will allow you to have your own views on things. And Caesar allowed you to have your own religious beliefs, no matter who you were in the Roman Empire. Whatever your religious beliefs are, that's perfectly fine. No matter what it is, he may not want anything to do with it, but if that's your religious belief, you have a right to it, as long as you remember Caesar's God. And God help you if you ever forget that. So you just keep in mind that Caesar is the ultimate God in the universe, and you don't think so, you mess with him and find out. So just keep your God and keep your religion and think about your philosophies the way you want. As long as he says jump, you better move. And whatever he says, you better do it immediately. And as long as you stay out of his way and smile when you see him, right. Then everything's fine. You can believe whatever you want and think whatever you want. But the bottom line is where the rubber hits the road. If he tells you something, you better do it. You better jump quick, because he is God. You don't think so? Mess with him. And so that's what I have been watching for 58 years, is the lost of the United States of America, and in the place of it, a private company called the United States Corporation. And incidentally, a corporation like the United States federal government is a corporation. It's a company, like Sears and and Exxon and all the oil companies. It's just a company. And therefore, according to corporate law, corporations can only deal with other corporations. They can't deal with you as a man, or your wife as a woman, or your children as children. There are two of you. Lots of people do not know this. There are two of everything. You ask people today, how many states are in our federal union? And if somebody, if a person's halfway well read, they will say there's 50 states in our union. Actually, in point of fact, no, there's not 50 states. There is 100 states. And I am of the opinion that there's 101 states, because I believe the state of Israel is like the state of Alabama, the state of California. It's one of our personal federal states in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's really, really frustrating when you're trying to debate Caesar and you're like, can we get out of here now? And they're just like, no, American interests. Be more specific. No, I can't. American interests. We're staying.
Yeah, and why American interests? Because they are part of America. They're called the state of Israel. We have in New York, we have the state of New York, the state of Alabama, the state of California. Now we got the state of Israel.
So, okay, so that's actually in the way that you're describing it, it's definitely a new. Is there a place where I could look up the legal evidence for that? Is there a place where that legal evidence exists, or is this something much more spiritual?
Well, no. There are places where these kind of facts are documented in federal documents, and I haven't gone into that. It's just something I've been thinking about for a long time, because I know other documents that say other things, and so I'm just extrapolating from what I already know, that it wouldn't surprise me if Israel is actually part of our federal enclave, our federal government, and so therefore it would be 51 states instead of 50. But my point was, going back to my original point, is that there is not 50 states, but there are 100 states in our union.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because each state is two states. Just as you are two separate people. You are a private person, a private individual, and you are a public individual. You are private and public. And so if I come over to your home, or we go out and have a beer, we're sitting and talking, and we make a deal just between you and I, nobody knows about it, and we make a deal. That deal is private. The government has nothing to say about it, period. They don't know anything about it, and it's just as well because they couldn't do anything about it. That's just between you and me. But if you do something to me, or I do something to you in that private capacity and screw you over, then you can take me to court. But now what was private is now public. Now you can deal with me in a courtroom, but you can't deal with me in the back of the bar. So if we're doing something together, it's private. But if one of us hurts the other one, now you can take it into the public venue and go to court with it.
Is repealing the 14th Amendment just the simple answer to things like that?
No. It is the answer. It is the definite answer to all of this. Because the 14th Amendment, what it did is it did not release the slaves. It did not make a better life for slaves. What it did is it very simply made everyone a slave. It didn't help the slaves. what it says, we are going to be all equal. Everybody's going to be equal. So we're not going to have any whites owning the black people and making them slaves. We're not going to have that anymore. What we're going to have is that the United States government is a corporation and everyone is a citizen of the corporation. Therefore, we're no longer going to have that silly nonsense of slavery. We're going to have something called the 14th Amendment, in which we are all slaves. Now, white, black, and any other color, you are all slaves to a far higher power. And that higher power owns a corporation called the United States Company, the United States Corporation.
Right.
Now we are all slaves.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite the magic spell. You know, it's just like the 13th Amendment abolishes slavery, but it's like, just kidding. Slavery is not really undone until the 14th Amendment is passed.
And that wasn't undoing the slavery. That was making us all equal.
Yeah.
And see, equal men are not free. And free men are not equal. Because if free men cannot be equal, and equal men cannot be free. Why? Think about it. If Michael Jordan is equal to me, no, he's not equal to me. He makes millions of dollars a year and plays sports, and I can't even walk on a basketball court, and he's making millions doing what he does, and I can't even walk on the damn court right. And so he's not equal to me. And conversely, I'm not equal to him. He's a millionaire, and I'm poor with nothing. So he's not equal to me, and I'm not equal to him. Why? Because we're free. He's free to be who he is, and I'm free to go back to bed and be nobody. I'm free to do that. and so we're not free.
Globally loved nobody on the planet. Come on, Jordan.
No, but I'm just saying that. Nobody, look at anybody, anytime you have equality, that means we're all in jail. The only people in this world that are equal are guys in prison. They're all in prison together. So you could be a wealthy guy on the outside, you could be very important on the outside, but if you got a 15-year sentence and I got a 15-year sentence, Jack, we're both equal here. And so we don't recognize what you were on the outside. You're in prison now with me, and so we're both equal. So equal men are in prison. Unequal people are whoever they want to be, and if they're uncommon men and they are brilliant in business and can make millions of dollars, I can't. So we're not equal.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and I always use the word equality, but I mean it in the sense.
Well, I understand what you mean.
Nobody's manipulating, as in the authority treats you equal, like from the blind justice standpoint, that whole idea, so the merit of it, it's like, stand back, let them figure it out and see, who does better. And just because one does better than the other doesn't mean the other is in a bad place anyway.
No, not at all. No.
Exactly. And of course, and that's the hard thing. It's always dealing with the parsing of the words. So Jordan, I got a question from a dear friend of mine. And I promised Trin that I'd get a question out.
Okay. That doesn't mean I'll know the answer, but
this is actually a pretty simple one about other people. She wants to know if other people that you recommend that are kind of like proteges of you, right? Like she wants to know people you would recommend to the audience.
Yeah, I understand.
Have the same research over the many years and things like that.
Yeah, but she wants to know people that I would recommend that she know about.
Well, probably that she doesn't know about. She probably wants to discover.
No, but she would like to know the people that I highly recomment, so that she can learn from them.
Yeah, like other people that have such the great breadth of knowledge that are putting themselves out there like you. Okay,
now let me answer that. On my website, Jordan Maxwell Show. Always remember the word show with me, because there are other websites out there with my name on it that don't belong to me. Yeah. But my website is jordanmaxwellshow.com. So go on to Jordan Maxwell Show, and one of the first things you'll see on the home page is a little banner that says join Jordan Maxwell Research Society, or the research website. So you join my research society, and there's all of my materials and all the pictures and documents and audio and video and pictures and documents and all kinds of stuff that I'm piling onto my research society. All my work over the years, I'm putting it all on my research society. But when you go to the research society and you join, one of the boxes, one of the places you could go to now on my research society, says email. It says links and important people. And when you click on that, it says, here are the people that I believe are the most important living on the earth today. Here are the people who are really doing something extraordinary that you need to know about. And I know these people, and I've been around for 58 years. I know all the wannabes. I know all the guys who think they're important. I know all the astronauts and scientists and all kinds of people around the world. But in my opinion, here are the people who are really on the cutting edge that you need to know about, and it's all in one little thing. And I got pictures of each one of these people and a little article about who they are, what their name is, and what they do, and why they're important. And then click here, and it takes you to their website and takes you to them. And so if she's interested in that, just join my research society and get all of my research that I'm putting up. I haven't got it all done yet. I got 4 terabytes of research to put up there. My webmaster can only do so much in a day, but he's trying to put up stuff every day, and I've just got masses of research material. But one of the boxes, will be links and important people. And go on that, and I've got about 25 or 30 people that are extraordinary individuals with brilliant minds who are doing some of the most incredible research in this world. And there's all the information on them. Click on the button, it takes you right to their website. And click on the second button, and it will take you to YouTube with all of their lectures on it. And so if you want to know the best of the best, go on my research society, join it, and click on links and important people. It's all there, all the people I recommend.
There's the break will be popping up in a minute or two. So before that happens, because you still got to go and do I have to go. I wanted to do 2 hours with you. You will have me back. Oh, for sure. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. But to keep you busy in general, why don't you tell the audience, in case they want to pass your contact information to other people like me or people that run conferences, tell people how to contact you for interviews and events. To contact me is very simple. Go to jordanmaxwellshow.com. Click on it, and there's everything there. It tells you who I am, what I'm doing, and there's even a button there that says contact. And you go to that, it gives you all my contact stuff. It's all on jordanmaxwellshow.com. All right, that's the break running. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'm going to do some more some news and current event stuff. My guest in this first hour, Jordan Maxwell, he will be back in a event to be determined in the near future. I'll talk to you really soon about that. I want to schedule it right away.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Feel that things were not quite right, that everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
Ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
and I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Join me weekdays for my new show, Tell Chris Joe. It's going to be a problem show brought to you live from Kensington. Thursdays, I'm dealing with hot topics, heated debate, what's new around the world, and ring-ins to discuss listeners' problems and offering considered and heartfelt solutions. So join me, Chris Hart, for Tell Chris Joe. Stop what you're doing, grab a cup of tea, and coming live from Kensington. Relax, let me entertain you with a coffee bar online. Listeners' very personal problems. So that's Thursdays, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. See you there. It's going to be lots of fun.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From ET contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio, at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
Let us play with all our toys and let us think that we're big.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Oh no. Okay, forget it. That's fine. The stream on the YouTube I was doing screwed up for some strange reason. It's gone into lag. Yeah, I was trying to play some Gojira for you. Now that Jordan's bounced, play a little bit some music that would be a little bit on the scary side. Didn't gotta give my good friend a heart attack. Although I'm sure he probably would have been cool with it. The Way of All Flesh by Gojira. That was the first 15 seconds of it. Anyway, Gojira's go check out their lyrics. Woke. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. Revolution.radio. This is Ghost in the Machine with Steve Travesty. If you're just tuning in, you've missed my interview with Jordan Maxwell. At the last minute, it got revealed that there was a schedule mishap, so Jordan couldn't give me a full 2 hours. We're going to have him back for a full 2 hours. We are 100% listener-supported station, so please help us out, hook us up, show us some love, hit that site support button, send us a check or PayPal order if you so choose. Help us continue to bring you this red pilling. So, where the heck are we here? Yeah. So, as you can see, I'm hoping to be able to work and get things really, really cohesive. I really want to get people's heads seated with solving problems, because I'm sick of the certain ways of things. Sick of the certain ways of things. I went on a tear on the Syrian airstrike. Only because people were making all sorts of judgments off the bat, which would have been fair a year ago when the same thing happened. Because a year ago, everybody was upset and on a tear. Oh my God, because, the escalation of war and the horrible things that will happen. And turned out that things got better after the airstrike. And part of what was getting better was the fact that Russia didn't have a serious problem with what we did. They have a slightly more serious problem with it now, but yet still, right? So letting the dust settle on those things, right? So I on YouTube have gone all over that on ad nauseum. Long story short, just go take a look at results. Go take a look at results and then reverse engineer and then ask yourself, why? Why did the president find it necessary to lie to us just to produce results from this airstrike such as this? That's all I'm going to say. Use your head. Use your head. Things are still to be revealed. And as far as I'm concerned, things still look more positive than negative. And I don't, and I, this was all, look, this is all part of the plan, because this is like, why? Because the things just don't all of a sudden just go south like that and then boom, military strike, right? Nobody was saying like, oh my God, there's all these people and this, that, and the other thing. It's just like, look, it was like, we just kicked 2 globalists out of the White House and you're freaking out about this. It's just like, there's less globalists in the White House, and it's around the exact time that those globalists are out and that guys like Bolton are in, and this happens. All right. So think, all of you, Jesus Christ, think. All right. And, well, actually, no, I am going to go into this a little bit because I got a Zero Hedge article for all of y'all. Welcome to Kabuki Warfare. Zero Hedge posted this today. Authored by James Hauer via Kunstler.com. Excuse me. When this chapter... wow. Forgive me. The back of my throat is really dry from talking too much. When this chapter of U.S. history is finally written, it will look like a deep dive into a vat of lentil soup. In Syria Friday night, we came, we saw, and we slung 103 cruise missiles into largely symbolic targets, including a supposed chemical weapons plant just outside Damascus, and some other places where we were not likely to kill Russian military personnel. The Russians apparently decided to just suck it up, knowing that the civil war in Syria is nearly over. Then what? Will the U.S. tolerate what has effectively become a Russian client state in the Levant and some Iranian sprinkles on top? The Saudi Arabians clearly don't relish that prospect. And one wonders how much the nominal Saudi leader, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, put the squeeze on U.S. officials, including the Golden Golem of greatness to do something. When he paid a call here a few weeks ago, Israel may not like having Hezbollah's patron Iran camped on their doorstep, but there's reason to believe that Bibi and Putin understand each other well enough, and that Russia will do what's necessary to moderate the Iran-Hezbollah Shia axis of maniacs. Israel's February strike against Syrian air defense installations was a reminder to all concerned that they will act on their own when they choose to. Finally, Russia certainly has no interest in protecting the caliphate maniacs, since the bear has plenty of rest of Islamic factions in its neighboring former Soviet republics. The various moves and statements having been made, the balance of power in Syria may be settling into a sort of freeze. Actually, anything that arrests the process of Syria turning into another failed Middle East state is better than the alternative before Al-Qaeda, that was a period, better than the alternative. Before Al-Qaeda, ISIS and their many mutant armies showed up before Russia came on the scene. Before the U.S. set this regional meltdown in motion next door in Iraq, Syria was not the world's problem, but neither really was Vietnam in 1963. All this raises question: when will reasonable people in the USA, if there are any left, begin to see the Russia meddling in our election story as a botched attempt to cook up a giant distraction from America's own swan dive into failed statehood? The moves on the game board have been so crude and bizarre that the very machinery of the republic is melting down as if on purpose. President Trump begins to look like a pitiful, helpless hostage to unseen forces. For the moment, he can't control a rogue Department of Justice, even when they trespass on a pillar of due process by seizing his personal attorney's papers and computer records. I'm going to pause right there and say, are you trying to entice the executive branch into dictatorship? This is a spectacle that is happening here. It's happening, and everybody sees it happening. Congress people across federal and state purviews have witnessed this Gestapo thing happening, and people don't like it for all sorts of reasons. Because everybody knows that all of this is based on trivial crap that's got nothing to do with national security or any other thing. So anyway, he does what his generals tell him to do in the war room. He affects the combat. He affects to combat all this chaos and incoherence with his illiterate barks and squawks on the ridiculous Twitter platform. And there seems to be no way forward from this morass except through more broken institutions and disorder. Excuse me. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that are happening here that the president is not in control of, as well as probably seeing things from a higher perspective and realizing the foolishness of said doing things. Because we are talking about, like, for instance, oh man, the generals over here, they're in charge. Da, 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 da. There's military stuff going on all over the place. Yeah, they're in charge. They're in charge of the theater of war. The Manhattan billionaire who didn't study military strategy for most of his life is going to listen to national security advisors and such, and then make a final judgment call that gets ordered down through them. And the nature of how he orders things around can be very, very open-ended to give the military carte blanche as long as the mission is clear. You know, if the mission is to blow up a place, maybe the details of blowing up the place doesn't matter as long as, collateral damage is minimized, etc., etc., etc. Okay? I mean, do you think like FDR was like sitting there and like micro managing like troop movements like that? No. A huge global coordinated effort in a time where there was no internet and not great radio communication across the Atlantic. And flights took a while because we didn't have jets. and we barely had aircraft. Did we have aircraft carrier in World War II? I don't even remember now. You get my point. Point is that no, we're just not used to the military being in control of a war under the watchful eye of a civilian. Okay, that's what you're looking at. Because we've always had high-profile politicians who've been schmoozing with generals their whole life as part of their career politicking, so on and so forth. Whether Trump's the good guy, the bad guy, or completely helpless, or the only guy who can do it, one way or the other, this is the way it's going to be done, considering the resume of the man we elected. He affects to all combat, all this chaos. I'm sorry, I read all that part. Okay, so far the financial system has not disintegrated, though fissures have been showing for weeks in the extreme volatility of markets. These markets are watched over massaged by the other arm of the deep state, the Federal Reserve, and its ancillary forces in the primary dealer, too big to fail banks. It's amazing to see the stress that these markets are withstanding, and rather than attribute it to some mythic strength of the economy, I'd wager that it has more to do with the marshalling of the algorithms and the bots to do whatever it takes to preserve some veneer of normality. When that line of defense here at home cracks, nobody will give a barreling F about Russia or Syria, and the great barge of wishes that Trump sailed in on may finally sink, even if the DOJ Inspector General's coming report on FBI political misdeeds prompts a severe house cleaning of the FBI and drives a stake into the heart of Mueller's investigation. A Wall Street train wreck will kill any delusions about the USA turning back into a 1955 Life of Riley utopia that dreams are made of. Reputations in government and the media will be shredded, and even the bystanders will be tainted for failing to show reality its due respect. So there you go. There's somebody who's got a very, I'd say that's a respectable negative criticism, to hear good dissenting opinion, because at least this guy's got something to say, has a really good way of putting it out there. So kudos to this article. I disagree with where we're going, but I keep an eye anyway, because maybe I will see more evidence of something like this. This is something approvable to me. What's really wild is that I had all these questions prepared. I really didn't need, I think I asked one, maybe two questions out of I think I had about 6 questions, because I knew Jordan was going to give a great full breadth of answers. So we'll close that up, and I am going to run a clip. I'm going to run a clip for you, because thank God I got this thing working. So I came across this in my feed, a little bit of history in the political sphere of things. This right here is something very interesting as we see the consequences of this change. This is from C-SPAN's YouTube channel, in fact. It was published October 18th, 2012, but it's from something C-SPAN had recorded in analog in 1988. Some of you may be familiar with the League of Women Voters. This is about the press conference from the League of Women Voters when society had decided to make a series of moves that ended the League of Women Voters' sponsorship of presidential debates. Very interesting. It's almost prophetic, her statements about her concerns about what happens here. There's about 8 minutes of that, and then there's about 4 minutes of Q&A. And I haven't screened the Q&A part yet. But let me share. And here we go.
On October 3, 1988, the League of Women Voters announced they were withdrawing their sponsorship of the presidential debates. Next, from the C-SPAN video library, a portion of the 1988 press briefing with League President Nancy Newman explaining the organization's decision.
Thank you all for coming on such short notice. As Stephanie said, I have a statement, and then I'll be happy to answer questions. The decision I'm here to announce was not an easy one to reach. It's the right decision. I know that, but not an easy one. From its start in 1920, the League of Women Voters aimed to inform people about the issues at stake in elections, to open lines of communication between the electorate and candidates for public office. Beholden to no political party, the League has for 68 years been looked to for the even-keeled information voters need around election time. Soon after its founding, the League got into the business of bringing candidates and experts together in public to discuss and debate various positions on various issues. These forums were held at the local and state level in meeting halls, churches, synagogues, and schools, and eventually they were held on radio. All in all, they turned out to be an excellent means toward the League's end of providing voter information and encouraging people to vote. In 1976, the League institutionalized debates at the national level by bringing televised, nonpartisan exposure to the presidential candidates' views, positions, and priorities. Since then, the American voter has come to expect the League to hold presidential campaigns accountable and to keep the candidates accessible. In 1980 and 1984, the elections became the time when television's potential as a campaign tool was fully realized. In both elections, the League stayed in the game, and we got the presidential candidates to agree to debate. The League is proud that we were able to bring Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, John Anderson, Ronald Reagan, Walter Mondale, Robert Dole, George Bush, and Geraldine Ferraro before the voters in debates that proved informative, even as campaigns were proving more and more image-driven and scripted. After the 1984 election, the League decided that it would go ahead with plans to sponsor a full series of primary and general election presidential debates in 1988. In early 1987, our site selection process and other planning already underway, the chairman of the two political parties announced plans to sponsor their own series of debates. They had set up a commission, they said, and they thanked the League for all we had done and urged us to step aside. We did not. Since their press conference that day, the League has argued that an organization set up by the political parties is not an appropriate sponsor for presidential debates. Obviously, the political parties have a huge stake in the outcome of debates and elections.
I wanted to pause right there. Not sure if I can be heard. Hold on. Wasn't sure if I could be heard, so I just had to change the setting over. Just wanted to pause right there and just talk about because we never think about these. I mean, we all like know it now, and Ralph Nader's Unreasonable Man documentary. I'm not like a Nader guy, but I watched the documentary out of just getting an education, which showed this whole thing. So this is talking about the time when the mainstream media. This is about the time the mainstream media got control of the televised debate, giving exclusivity to the debate as a television apparatus, because the political parties are running this aspect of the voice. This was the great moment of the great suppression of third parties. Before this, there were other means that were used to make things about the Democrats and the Republicans. This was the point where the Democrats and the Republicans made a deal with themselves, a deal with the devil that they were, to take over in that respect. And that's part of rigging the primaries. It's part of rigging the primaries and using the credibility of the media to destroy somebody through certain ways that you handle things. The whole game. Major aspect of fake news history right here. Let me throw us back into the fold.
And obviously, a political party will not be party to an event that puts its titular head at risk. Under partisan sponsorship, debates will become just another risk-free stop along the campaign trail. We forged ahead with our plans for debates in the fall of 1988. We sent proposals to the Bush and Dukakis campaigns in May of this year, outlining our recommendations for dates, sites, format, and other concerns. As the campaign progressed, however, it became clear that the idea of debates sponsored by the political parties had appeal with people who routinely squeeze all risk out of their candidates' appearances. They prefer instead to leave the American public at risk. After a couple of weeks of negotiations around Labor Day, the Bush and Dukakis campaigns announced they had settled most points of contention, including sponsorship. The problem was the sponsors were not in on any of it. The negotiations over these critical events were carried out by the campaigns alone to serve the campaign's interests. Throughout these negotiations, I asked that the campaigns open the door to the League. I was certain that the voters' interests would be better served if there were a third party in the room keeping campaign manipulations in check. The campaigns said no, keeping the voters' interests out of their discussions. Representatives of the two campaigns came to us on September 28th, just 2 weeks before the debate, with an agreement we were told we had to sign. The agreement had been reached by the campaign chairman, and it spelled out everything. Between themselves, the campaigns had determined what the television cameras could take pictures of. They had determined how they would select those who would pose questions to the candidates. They had determined that the press would be relegated to the last two rows of the hall. They had determined that they would pack the hall with their supporters. And they had determined the format. The campaign's agreement was a closed-door masterpiece. The agreement was a done deal, they told us. We were supposed to sign it and agree to all of its conditions. If we did not, we were told we would lose the debate. It's clear that the campaigns wanted the League's stamp of integrity on a shoddy product. Obviously, we have been presented with campaign demands before. We have agreed to some and we have challenged and negotiated others. But never in the long history of the League of Women Voters have two candidates' organizations come to us with such stringent, unyielding, and self-serving demands. In Winston-Salem, which you know was not a League of Women Voters debate, they went so far as to insist on reviewing the moderator's opening comments. It turned out that the League had two choices. We could sign their closed-door agreement and hope the event would rise above the manipulations, or we could refuse to lend our trusted name to this charade. The League of Women Voters is announcing today that we have no intention of becoming an accessory to the hoodwinking of the American public. Under these circumstances, the League is withdrawing its sponsorship of the presidential debates scheduled for mid-October in Los Angeles. On the threshold of a new millennium, this country remains the brightest hope for all who cherish free speech and open debate. Americans deserve to see and hear the men who would be president face each other in a debate on the hard and complex issues critical to our progress into the next century. In closing, let me issue this challenge. The League of Women Voters is urging you, George Bush, and you, Michael Dukakis, to rise above your handlers and to agree to join us in presenting the fair and full discussion the American public expects of a League of Women Voters debate. Thank you.
Okay, it goes into the Q&A next, and I'm going to play a little bit of the Q&A. It's only 2.5 minutes of Q&A, but I just wanted to show you right there. 1988. It took us to 2016 to realize that game. Took us right up to 2016 for all of that to come out. Both the primary debates on the Republican side and then the general election debate were a complete nightmare because, say what you will about post-election Trump. Pre-election Trump, one of the things that everybody loved about him was the way that he fought that apparatus by saying, okay, this is how you play the game. Well, according to the rules, I can do things this way. And he decided to do things very different, very ethically. And and you could tell that it was infuriating for people because there was no backdooring going on between Trump people and Clinton people. But unfortunately, and this is maybe something that can be corrected by this election, there's been no open door for other parties, right? So the Green Party, still not allowed to have anything to do with this. Libertarian Party, still not allowed to have anything to do with this. Or just any other party, especially ones, which granted the Libertarians and the Greens are the only ones, that had enough state registration to get voted on. In a way that there would be enough electoral votes to win. And so, and this is all surface level stuff, right? I mean, like this, this stuff, yes, needs to be fixed, but oh man, there's a million other things that also have to be fixed. But I just wanted to show you this historical record. So let's find out together how the press, which may be the same press she was just talking about, reacts to these statements. Let me jump us back into audio share, and here we go.
Now I'm happy to answer questions. Yes.
Newman, are you suggesting that the campaigns are trying to turn this into a setup for a soundbite or something like that? What is it that they're trying to do here?
Basically, they've squeezed all the risk out of the debate. And one of the reasons we always sponsored debates was that we could put on a nonpartisan forum that was not under the control of the campaigns. The debates became basically the last event left where there was any risk for the candidates. There was someone in front, yes.
How does what the campaigns deliver to the league change what television viewers would see and hear when Bush and Dukakis face off in Los Angeles, or if they still would?
Sometimes what you see on the screen isn't what's going on behind the scenes. So the public might not realize how much of the debate is under the control of the campaigns. I would speculate that this year you might get an imitation League of Women Voters debate, but in 1992 you probably would get either no debates or something far more canned than you'll get this year. Yes.
Your understanding that someone else is now going to step forward and sponsor this debate at this time and in Los Angeles at the same date. Do you think the National Commission, for instance, is going to turn out to be the sponsor of the same debate?
Well, you can ask the commission that question, but the agreement we will not sign says that if you don't sign this, we'll go to another sponsor. Yes.
Why have you waited until this late date to withdraw? And did you in fact raise sufficient money to put on the debate?
We have raised sufficient money to put on the debate. We've waited this long because, as I said, it was only at the end of last week we received the agreement. We attempted to negotiate terms within the agreement, and we were told that you either sign this agreement or you don't do a debate. Yes.
Are both campaigns equally at fault in your judgment here?
The agreement was signed by the chairman of each campaign.
What is specifically that you object to that is in their proposal that you think would be bad?
I did outline several objections in my statement, but basically the campaigns have dictated who will ask the questions, how the questions will be asked, how the cameras will be placed, what kind of photographs the cameras can take, who will sit in the hall, and where the press should be located in the hall.
Okay, so there you have it. By the way, that last question, that voice is pretty unmistakable, and he's been in the business that long. I'm pretty sure that was Fox News' Chris Wallace, somebody who has hosted debates in the past. He was there in that room, and he said nothing. He said nothing in 2015 and 2016. He was a defendant of it. His behavior. He's, he's changed since, but I don't know if he's really changed or if he's just changing the script. I don't know. I don't know about him. But anyway. But yeah. So just think about that. Collusion, right? Collusion. Like what? Oh, collusion. The Republicans are colluding with the freaking Democrats anyway. Collude my ass. So that's that. Okay. Stillnessinthestorm.com. The Department of Homeland Security is now tracking journalists, creating database of media influences. This was posted today by a staff writer. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security is looking to build a media monitoring database. When some reporters objected, a DHS spokesman dismissed their concerns as fodder for black helicopter conspiracy theorists. Service providers who want to bid for the program have until April 13th to submit a capability statement, according to the notice posted on the federal contractor website by the National Protection and Programs Directorate, a division of DHS charged with protecting the physical and cyber infrastructure. This has led Michelle Fabio of Forbes to wonder if the DHS is trying to use the cries of Russian meddling to justify creating a database of journalists and social media influencers. This is like, this is like passing, passing like anti-box cutter laws after 9/11. It would have no bearing on anything. Because the only thing that would have mattered for the terrorist side of the stage show is you believing that they had things more dangerous than box cutters. They had box cutters, yes. What they didn't have, that they said that they did have, was a bomb on the plane. No, the plane was a missile. But anyway. When the Committee to Protect Journalists retweeted Fabio's article, DHS spokesman Tyler Houghton chimed in to say the database is nothing more than the standard practice of monitoring current events in the media. Well, if it's just that, then why do you need to, do a thing? DHS now tracking, creating a database. Yeah, okay, I suppose fine. I mean, I can do that. I can just go around all day and just make a spreadsheet or write things down on a pen and paper and be like, okay, there's this show located here to be listened to. The hosts and producers are such, yada, 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 and go down the line and, okay, I've made a list and I'm not the government, right? So it's entirely possible that yes, that's all that it is. But once again, it's the question of DHS needs something to do. Terrorism is coming to an end, and it needs something to do because it's a bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy is a starving animal, and so it's always hungry. It's like a shark; it just doesn't turn off its impulse to feed. So we're out of terrorists. We're out of actual threatening radical Americans. We better invent new crimes to keep us relevant. Otherwise, we're going to be disbanded and absorbed into the Justice Department or something like that. Any suggestions? Okay, whoops, that's right. Black helicopters. Okay. All right, there's a tweet from Tyler Q. Halton, a Spox at Spox DHS. Despite what some reporters may suggest, this is nothing more than the standard practice of monitoring current events in the media. Any suggestions otherwise is fit for tinfoil hat wearing black helicopter conspiracy theorists. Oh, so you mean it's only fit for people that tell the truth? Yes, Tyler, it is perfectly fit for me because I'm telling you the truth. So, okay, well, I'm glad we've established that only credible media sources that know that there are black helicopters and tinfoil. Just see, this is why they need the database. He has no idea how many Americans he's talking about. Oh, that's ironic. Holton adopted a similar tone in responding, or maybe he does know how many, and that's the point. Oh, he made that statement on my birthday. Oh, so was that a birthday threat? I'm sure it was. I shouldn't be laughing, right? But anyway, Holton adopted a similar tone in responding to an inquiry from Alex Kasprick of the fact-checking site Snopes. You're embarrassing yourself with these questions and wild conspiracy theories, he wrote. Alex, man, I'm always repeating myself because I read through it and then it goes to the quote in context that I also want to cover. So just like you monitored the media to find this story, DHS does the same. Enjoy your weekend. And that's Tyler Q. Holton. So Alex Kasperk says, I asked DHS already collected data on journalists, and that was his reply. So anyway, with Holton being less than helpful, perhaps the stalemate of work attached to the bid request could shed some light on what the DHS is actually looking to build. According to the 6-page document, the contractor shall provide media comparison tools, design and rebranding tools, communication tools, and the ability to identify top media influencers. Oh boy, I hope I'm on the top of that list. Yeah, right? But anyway, there are 6 tasks being required of the contractors, starting with the ability to track more than 290,000 global news sources in over 100 languages, including Arabic, Chinese, and Russian, and the ability to instantly translate the article to English. The next step would be a password protected online platform enabling the DHS to access search results, an online article and social media conversation, an interactive dashboard providing real-time monitoring analysis and benchmark of media coverage, and the ability to analyze the coverage in terms of content, volume, sentiment, geographical spread, influencers, language, momentum, among other things. That sounds pretty cool. Could you give that to all the search engines now, so that way it's a lot easier for me to find a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, because you've already done all the analysis work for me. Oh, this is how you find Steve Travesty on the internet. Fascinating. All this should be available in an encrypted mobile app with enabled email alerts and customer service support. Most interesting, listed under media engagement, is the ability to access contact details and any other information that could be relevant for any influencer in the database, including the publications the influencer writes for, and an overview of the influencer's previous coverage. This database would have to be searchable, including in language such as Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. Let me also say this much. This could be used as a tool for good. Maybe they want to listen because they like the tinfoil hat conspiracies, because maybe they're not good at their job and they need people that are doing the work so they can catch an actual bad guy. It's just like, hey, we got to listen to Steve Travesty. He actually gives us good intel, and he agrees that our bad guys are their bad guys. It's like, exactly right. Are you a radical terrorist of any ideology? I'm not down with you being a radical whatever. The only way I want you radical is on your surfboard, dude. Like, be radical as in you're radical, man. You're cool. Like, it's like, seriously. And, trying to get to this point of being deserving of adult civil treatment, of being treated with respect and dignity and things like that. I got no problem if the government is taking a look at everything I put in the public. It's in the public anyway. They would have had to have worked harder the way before. If they wanted to do it, they would have done it, right? Any staff working on the contract would have to have appropriate security clearance, ranging from secret all the way to top secret, with SCI, sensitive compartmented information. Now, you see, right there, that's interesting, right? Why? Well, I don't know. If somebody's going to be on my case, and I'm talking about tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, which are the only things that have been mentioned here, it's just like, DHS said it themselves, like, to say not, but that means yes. If they're going to take a look into what I'm talking about for any particular reason, especially to figure out how close to exposing their situation is, the main thing is they can abuse this power to get ahead of someone like me on the leading edge of consciousness. So this is not something that is a good thing. A lot of things have to change. It shouldn't be right that authority exists. This is why doing things like what I was talking about with Jordan Maxwell are so important. Because all I care about is solving all these problems. That's all I care about. To be transformative in a way where we can deconstruct authority over us. Because considering how peaceful and good and civil we typically are as a standard, it's just like, it's the reason why society just doesn't one day decide to start a riot, tear everything down. My neighbor steals my stuff. If everybody just went mad in 1 second, you could have a bazillion crimes happen all at once, and a whole area turns into a wasteland, like overnight, right? But nobody impulses themselves like that. It takes takes a long time to change people in that way. There's a lot of foundations of belief systems. It's a lot of negative belief systems you have to install into someone's programming, and there's too many deprogrammers out there like me. The DHS spokesman snark has certainly raised some eyebrows, as official denials in Washington are never quite so forceful. One is reminded of how former Director of Intelligence Clapper told Congress the NSA does not wittingly spy on Americans. Unfortunately for Clapper, just a few months later, whistleblower Edward Snowden showed the entire world that the NSA was doing just that. Well, you see, but Clapper didn't technically lie. Not why? Because Edward Snowden didn't work for the NSA. He worked for a contractor who was doing it for the NSA who didn't know it. And when something happens and you don't know that it's happening and it's happening on your behalf, that is how you not wittingly do something. Right? That is everything. You can say that about everything unconstitutional, unlawful that the government does. It's all these special access programs, which is basically what Edward Snowden was a part of, as well as the unacknowledged special access programs, which is our black government's back door to the breakaway civilization stuff they don't want you knowing nothing about. That's the way the game is played. That was originally on Free Thought Project, actually, this article. I am going to run another clip that gets us eventually towards the end of the show over here. I thought this was good to do. I've been following the QAnon stuff. Q says, watch out for Iran. I'm not saying we can trust Q, but I am saying that Q has a credible track record. So it would be wise to try to work with this foreknowledge. There's no reason not to do these things because it's good to look at that. It's already self-evident its relevance, right? So Iran. Bill Still on the Still Report YouTube channel put out a video about Iran is having some serious currency problems, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. This kind of global economics is Bill Still's wheelhouse. So absorb some very interesting global economic information right here.
At the end of this report for a special coupon for our viewers. Good morning. I'm still reporting on the economy of Iran. According to Radio Farda, the U.S. government-funded Persian language version of Radio Free Europe, the Iranian currency, the rial, is collapsing. What does this mean? Here is a photo of a line of Iranians in front of a currency exchange ready to travel abroad. They have to have foreign currency to pay for things because a coffee shop in Paris has no idea what an Iranian rial is, much less what it is worth. So here's the current spot price for the rial. 1 rial is worth 0.000024 of a dollar. Or the inverse is that it would take 41,666 rials to buy $1 today. When this story was written a few hours ago, the price was 40,000 rial to a dollar. So international confidence in the rial is sinking fast, and that's what a currency collapse is. This is why President Obama, on January 16, 2016, the very day the Iran nuclear agreement was implemented, sent the first of what would turn out to be 3 plane loads of cash, at least $1.7 billion worth, to try to prevent Iran's currency collapse. If you remember, at this time, Obama's so-called signature legislative achievement, Obamacare, was already going bankrupt, and Obama desperately needed a foreign policy achievement to strengthen his battered legacy. So the transfer of $1.7 billion in cash was desperately needed by both Iran and Obama. But now there's a new sheriff in town, and the globalist claque, of which the Clinton crime syndicate is a part, is now squealing about Trump not being fit to be president. Why? One of the reasons is because Trump is being sure that real Iranian sanctions are actually being imposed, and those sanctions are reaching the breaking point. Iran has now been cut off from most of the world for real. They can't trade with many nations to either buy or sell their goods other than Russia. Their only option is to keep printing fake money, which is today's rial. This works for a while, but eventually foreign currency dealers figure out what's going on and refuse to pay the price the Iranian government wants for their colorful pieces of paper. Pretty soon it's a stampede to sell this fake money before it goes to zero, and that's what is just starting to happen. This is good news for Western civilization because Iran is the world's largest sponsor of terrorism, and of course Obama was the world's largest cash contributor to Iran. But now the freebies have run out. Now the mullahs have no more money to sponsor anything, including food for their people. And that, my friends, is the Trump effect internationally. This will sooner or later cause an internal revolution in Iran, and we don't have to lift one finger or ask one American soldier's life to make it happen. If we just stand back, the market will correct the situation all by itself. How? The Iranian people won't stand for starvation. So if the choice is starve to death for sure, or take a risk of getting hurt in the streets trying to free your nation from its tyrannical government, guess which one the people of Iran will choose every time? But there is one problem here, one last card in the mullahs' hands that they are trying to play. Last Monday, Iran threatened to restart its nuclear enrichment program if Trump struck Syria. The threat is that they could develop a nuclear weapon to sit atop their already operational medium-range ballistic missile program, which could easily hit Israel only 1,500 kilometers from Tehran, or a cruise missile that could reach Central Europe. According to Ali Akbar Salehi, the head of Iran's atomic program, Iran could produce sufficient weapons-grade nuclear material in just 4 days to make a weapon. This is exactly what critics of Obama's Iran nuclear agreement said would happen if Iran got to keep their centrifuges. Here is the fact sheet for the Iran nuclear agreement from the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation. Notice that the two most important restrictions on Iran are that they can possess no more than 300 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 3.67% and no more than 6,104 centrifuges. Enforcement of this has basically been a pinky promise between the Iranian dictatorship, the mullahs, and the Obama administration. The threat from the head of Iran's atomic program is that if provoked, Iran could enrich sufficient uranium up to 20% in a matter of 4 days.
Okay, so I wanted to pause it there so I could talk into the break instead of that thing running into the break, as in right now. All right, so there's a little bit of a situation with Iran. I don't think that we have to be too worried about the nuclear thing, even though they can go and start working with, and doing such a thing. I think we're going to be somewhat primed to deal with it. So anyway, Ghost of the Machine, I will see you next week. I will have Jordan Maxwell back very, very soon. And on May 14th, Sethicus Boza, Black Earth Productions. Go check it out on my YouTube and my Facebook channel. Later!
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.